I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. So now we are back in Mosiah. This will be chapter 11. This is approximately the year 160 BC is where we pick this up. Remember that Benjamin is now king in Zarahemla. They've had their own wars with the Lamanites. Benjamin led his people in driving the Lamanites out. Now, did that war happen after the first war with Zeniff or after the second war with Zeniff? I say war, they're really more just battles, but you get my point. We don't know, but somewhere in there. I think it was probably between the two. This chapter isn't incredibly long, but we are going to read it in two different videos. The first one is going to be verses 1 through 19, which is a description of King Noah and how he runs the kingdom. And then we will read the second half, which is the beginning of the story of the prophet Abinadi. King Noah rules in wickedness. He revels in riotous living with his wives and concubines. Abinadi prophesies that the people will be taken into bondage. His life is sought by King Noah. And now it came to pass that Zeniff conferred the kingdom upon Noah, one of his sons. Therefore Noah began to reign in his stead. And he did not walk in the ways of his father. For behold, he did not keep the commandments of God, but he did walk after the desires of his own heart. And he had many wives and concubines. And he did cause his people to commit sin, and to do that which was abominable in the sight of the Lord. Yea, and they did commit whoredoms and all manner of wickedness. And he laid a tax of 1/5 part of all they possessed, 1/5 part of their gold and of their silver, and 1/5 part of their ziph, and of their copper, and of their brass, and their iron, and 1/5 part of their fatlings, and also 1/5 part of all their grain. And all this did he take to support himself, and his wives, and his concubines, and also his priests, and their wives, and their concubines. Thus he had changed the affairs of the kingdom. For he put down all the priests that had been consecrated by his father, and consecrated new ones in their stead, such as were lifted up in the pride of their hearts. Yea, and thus they were supported in their laziness, and in their idolatry, and in their whoredoms by the taxes which King Noah had put upon his people. Thus did the people labor exceedingly to support iniquity. Yea, and they also became idolatrous, because they were deceived by the vain and flattering words of the king and priests, for they did speak flattering things unto them. And it came to pass that King Noah built many elegant and spacious buildings, and he ornamented them with fine work of wood, and of all manner of precious things, of gold, and of silver, and of iron, and of brass, and of ziph, and of copper. And he also built him a spacious palace, and a throne in the midst thereof, all of which was of fine wood, and was ornamented with gold and silver, and with precious things. And he also caused that his workmen should work all manner of fine work within the walls of the temple, of fine wood, and of copper, and of brass. And the seats which were set apart for the high priests, which were above all the other seats, he did ornament with pure gold. And he caused a breastwork to be built before them, that they might rest their bodies and their arms upon, while they should speak lying and vain words to his people. And it came to pass that he built a tower near the temple, yea, a very high tower, even so high that he could stand upon the top thereof, and overlook the land of Shilom, and also the land of Shemlon, which was possessed by the Lamanites. And he could even look over all the land round about. And it came to pass that he caused many buildings to be built in the land of Shilom, and he caused a great tower to be built on the hill north of the land of Shilom, which had been a resort for the children of Nephi at the time they fled out of the land. And thus he did do with the riches which he obtained by the taxation of his people. And it came to pass that he placed his heart upon his riches, and he spent his time in riotous living with his wives and his concubines, and so did also his priests spend their time with harlots. And it came to pass that he planted vineyards round about in the land, and he built wine presses, and made wine in abundance, and therefore he became a wine-bibber, and also his people. And it came to pass that the Lamanites began to come in upon his people, upon small numbers, and to slay them in their fields, and while they were tending their flocks. And King Noah sent guards round about the land to keep them off. But he did not send a sufficient number, and the Lamanites came upon them and killed them, and drove many of their flocks out of the land. Thus the Lamanites began to destroy them, and to exercise their hatred upon them. And it came to pass that King Noah sent his armies against them, and they were driven back. For they drove them back for a time. Therefore they returned rejoicing in their spoil. And now, because of this great victory, they were lifted up in the pride of their hearts. They did boast in their own strength, saying that their 50 could stand against thousands of the Lamanites. And thus they did boast, and did delight in blood, and the shedding of the blood of their brethren, and this because of the wickedness of their king and priests. Look at how quickly Noah turns the kingdom to wickedness. Now, I don't exactly fault Zeniff. Zeniff probably just conferred the king on his eldest son, or his eldest living son, because that was tradition. And while Zeniff was alive, he probably kept his son in check. But Noah was clearly of this character long before he became king. And when he becomes king, he's just able to come out in force. Now, they begin to build their wine presses. They all become drunkards. Whoredoms, having many wives and concubines. The opulence and splendor of the buildings. All this stuff. And it's all built on an excessive tax of the people. I find that interesting too. How much is their tax? Their tax is 20%. That's a high tax, in my opinion. The founding fathers of the United States thought that a 3% tax was a high tax. Today we have people who are proposing taxing as high as 80% on at least some people. But even a 20% tax is considered oppressive in the scriptures. This isn't just mildly annoying, this is an oppression of the people. And he's condemning that they are living off the taxation of the people, like modern politicians do. We see a parallel here. And because of this wickedness, the Lamanites are able to come in because they become lazy. They are not keeping up their defenses, and the Lamanites come in and they start doing small raids. They're not coming in force. They're coming in small raids. And eventually the king has to raise a full army to deal with the problem. They drive the Lamanites out, but they don't give God the credit. They glory in themselves. This shows us how quickly things can fall apart. And you'll note that it begins with an oppressive tax. I have to add in that while it begins with this oppressive taxation, one of the very first things he does, he removes all the good priests and installs his own corrupt priests. And again, we have a parallel in the modern day in which religion is driven out of the schools, driven out of the public, and replaced with the false priests and prophets of secularism. We will read the rest of this chapter in the next video, so I will see you there.